Well, first and foremost, my job was to carry out psychological warfare against the enemy, that is the communist terrorists in the jungle. Now, see, psychological warfare is a subject very much misunderstood. Some people thought it was completely bullshit, useless. Others thought it could produce miracles. But both opinions are obviously wrong. You see, I think the government has wisely set up a scheme of priorities in the operations against the communist terrorists. Top priority is always given to special branch operations. Second priority to military operations. And third priority only to psychological warfare operations. See, the point is this: at the beginning, the terrorists were very high in morale. See, they said that, the tall, fearsome-looking orang-putih soldiers were defeated by the Japanese, who were like monkeys. And they claimed, the communists themselves claimed, to have defeated the Japanese themselves. Nothing to do with any atom bomb in Nagasaki and all this nonsense, so they say. The communist anti-Japanese army, the Japanese forces defeated the British. And the communist forces defeated the Japanese in this country. So when the communist forces should fight against the British forces in this country, it was bygone conclusion, habislah. So they thought that way. And in fact, they said every comrade must rally to the cause. The earlier you join it, the higher will be your position when we succeed. You join early, you can become CPO. You join too late, it may be only a police corporal, only a police constable. So they predicted they could have won the war in about 6 months, because they were very much mistaken. Now, under those circumstances, it would be totally foolish to tell them to surrender. They were having it all their way, they were sitting pretty. So my first priority was to restore the morale of the policeman, of the special branch officer, and of the government officer who, during Japanese occupation, had to work for the Japanese. While the communists, because they formed themselves into a so-called Malayan People's Anti-Japanese Army, claimed themselves to be heroes of resistance against the Japanese. So they called these policemen, special branch officers, sub-officers, collaborators, running dog of the Japanese. And these officers felt very, very bad about it. So my first purpose was to tell them that now that they have come out to work for the government again, they are doing the service to the country and the people by maintaining good administration, law and order, and get rid of all lawlessness which was being carried out by the communists. And as part of my campaign, I started a monthly newspaper called the New Path News. And it is sort of tabloid size, starting with 4 pages, ending up with 8 pages as time went on. On the front page, the top half consists of an editorial. The lower half consists of readers' forum. I used to receive highly abusive letters from obviously communists and communist supporters saying that this newspaper is a running dog newspaper, it's all sorts of nonsense. In fact, the more abusive the letter, the more I like it. I reproduced these letters in photostat, together with photostat of the envelope, and gave a point-to-point reply to all the accusations, proving that far from being running dogs of the British and so on and so forth, we were safeguarding the country from lawlessness, safeguarding the interests of the people, safeguarding the welfare of the people, trying to carry out rehabilitation after the devastation of law, of the Japanese occupation. While the communists themselves were the real running dogs of Russian imperialism. They are disloyal to their country, they are disloyal to their blood, to serve an alien ideology and an alien organization. What more running dog could there be? So as a result, every month the readers waited for the appearance of this new pulp news, mostly to read the highly interesting and readers' forum and the reply. Eventually, we had something like 20,000 individual addresses, plus about distribution. All this was done by the information service. So that's the first thing. Then the second thing is try to find out what makes the enemy tick. Now, I started with 8 years of education in a local Chinese school, and among the children in the same class were people from all sorts of Chinese dialects. The medium of instruction is Mandarin. My own native dialect is Cantonese. But all the kids in the classes, before long, could speak all the dialects except myself. I'm a numbskull. In fact, I'm a very poor linguist to pick up a new language. That's why my Bahasa Malaysia cannot be shown to the world. It's that poor. Well, anyway, having gone through 8 years of education and the knowledge of Chinese of different dialects, and very interesting, the boy who was sitting next to me in the final year in the junior middle school, in the Confucian school, came from a family more than 10 times richer than mine. He had Parker pen, he had embroidered handkerchiefs, while I wrote with a pencil, and my shorts were my father's long pants potong. So, to all intents and purposes, I should turn out a communist, and he should turn out a capitalist. Well, after the Japanese surrender, I found out that meanwhile, he had become a Central Committee member of the Communist Party of Malaya. So that, created my curiosity to find out how these people who had no special training, like me, managed to set up the Malayan People's Anti-Japanese Army, MPAJA, and its ancillary organization, the Malayan People's Anti-Japanese Union, MPAJU, with such vast and extensive organizations and ramifications. So I thought I knew all about the background of this communist. But when I took over this job and began to study captured communist documents and statements taken of the surrender communists, to my great surprise, I found out that I knew nothing at all. The pattern of behavior, the way of thinking, and even the sense of values of these people in the jungle, I found, were totally different from those of us outside. They use the same Chinese characters, but they have different meanings. See, heroism is something very good to us, but to them it's very bad. It means over-exaggeration of individual pride. You see, the term 民族, which is translated literally as race, to the communists means nation. That's why at the beginning of the campaign, when the British, because they had no other choice, had to employ graduates from Chinese schools who had no idea about political science, about communist usage, to act as translators of the captured communist documents. Now, as I said earlier, the Malayan communist terrorists, while they used mostly the normal Chinese characters, they attributed different meanings and different connotations to these standard Chinese terms. For example, the term 民族 is literally translated as race or bangsa. But to the communists, the term 民族 means nation or national. So when the communist forces called itself the Malayan National Liberation Army, there was no change. But unfortunately, the unqualified Chinese translators translated the term literally into Malayan Races Liberation Army, MRLA. There has never been any Malayan Races National Army, or MRLA. It has all the time been Malayan National Liberation Army, MNLA. And that's what the communists were using consistently. Although some alleged foreign experts still now believe there was such a thing as MRLA, which later changed its name into MNLA. Now, to sum up the whole thing, I believe that the main contribution to our victory came from the Special Branch, because the Special Branch was the only organization which provided operational intelligence. And especially during the period of the first emergency, a number of Chinese contract inspectors of Special Branch were recruited. They did not possess the requisite academic qualifications, school certificate and so on and so forth, but they were very good in the local dialect. They knew the local conditions, they could mix up with the local people, and they were very efficient in finding intelligence from the rural areas. Of course, they ran a lot of personal risk. And I'm afraid they are a group of unknown and unsung heroes, and I'm very happy to have this opportunity in paying due gratitude to this group of fine people who made such a great contribution to the security of the country and the people. Now, at the beginning, it was the cities, communist terrorists, who dominated the jungle. But as time went on, and after 1951 and the admission of defeat, the government tactics became more refined. A number of jungle squads were organized with the police field force. And each jungle squad of platoon size, about 35 persons, led by a police lieutenant, was sent into the jungle for periods ranging from 2 weeks to 3 months. During that time, they patrolled the jungle. And they were constantly supplied by air with food, medical facilities, and their wounded were evacuated by air. So hundreds of these jungle squads went into the jungle. They crisscrossed, they searched all the jungle. In fact, they dominated the jungle. And the city gangs were pinned down. So after that, the government decided to make a major operation in the central of the part of the peninsula in the Kuala Lumpur area, thereby breaking the communist terrorist organizations into the northern and southern parts without any effective means of communication. Then, with these jungle squads, they pinned down the local communist gangs and started to eliminate these gangs one by one, with the result that when a place was cleared of communists, it was declared white area, and Malacca was the first white area so declared. Now, another group of people I like to give proper due were the Kinder Home Guard. Now, during Japanese occupation, there was a group of anti-communist and anti-Japanese army. They were against the communist resistance. They gave their allegiance to the Chinese Nationalist Party, or KMT, Kuomintang of China. And I was instrumental with Mr. Thompson of the British military administration to help in their demobilization in the Betong area in southern Thailand. Now, about half of them remained in the Perak area, and eventually they were employed by the tin mines in the Kinta Valley as home guards to guard and defend the tin mines. And they were the first Chinese home guards to be given arms. Then later, Templar expanded this and issued firearms to all Chinese home guards throughout the country.